everyone, it's Hailey, and today I wanted to talk about the summer book releases that I am super excited for. So I have been going through a very transformative period of my reading, and honestly, I kind of as I was looking for some releases that I'm really excited for, I was having a bit of a hard time. I feel like as much as 2022 has had some really awesome releases that I've loved, it's also been kind of a more quiet year. And to be fair, summer usually is a slower season in terms of publishing, so there's not as many heavy hitters. And I mean, that's kind of reflected. I feel like this list is a lot shorter than usual, but I'm sure once we get to fall, I'll have a ton of new releases to talk about. Today I'm going to be talking about books that are coming out between July and September, so that is the summer season for publishing, or at least it's kind of the easiest way to divide it because they kind of bleed into each other, but let's just get into it. Also, there's a lot of noise happening. My neighbor has been using a table saw. I apologize, can't do anything about it, and now my boyfriend's having a shower, so I'm sorry if you can hear any background noise, but we're just going to persevere. So the first book is the Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas, and this is coming out September 6th. So Aiden Thomas is the author of Cemetery Boys, which I was such a huge fan of. I think they did a fantastic job with that book. They also have another book that was a Peter Pan retelling that came out last year that I wasn't the hugest fan of, but I love their writing, so I'm really excited for the Sunbearer Trials. And this one particularly is based on Mexican mythology, so it seems like a really cool concept. It's kind of this sort of race thing, and the cover is absolutely stunning. I'm obsessed with it, so this is definitely one that I am really looking forward to. And I've kind of been veering a little bit away from YA fantasy, but I think that this is one that I'm going to make sure that I get my hands on because I think it's one that I'm actually going to really like. Next is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. So this is the second full-length novel by the author of The Love Hypothesis. So she has come out with quite a few little novellas since the release of The Love Hypothesis, but this one is going to be her first full-length novel since that first book. And it is once again a STEMinist rom-com. So it's feminist, but it also is dealing with women in STEM. And I love the fact that that is what she has decided to focus on for her books. I think she did such a fantastic job with it in The Love Hypothesis, so I can't wait for this one. This one is coming out on August 23rd, so not too long to wait, but it is about a scientist who is forced to work on a project with her nemesis. So while the first book was a fake dating story, which I really love fake dating, this one is going to be more enemies to lovers, which I kind of am more meh about, so we'll see how I feel about it because there are definitely some that I've really loved, and I loved Ali Hazelwood's writing, so I think this could be really good. I haven't read any of her novellas, so I don't know how those are, if those are as good, but I'm not a huge novella person. Next is the Godparent Trap, and this is by Rachel Van Dyken, and it's coming out on July 19th. And I think this sounds absolutely amazing. This sounds like something that I would really love. It is enemies to lovers, but it does seem like a twist that I kind of like. I like forced proximity stories, and this is definitely that. So it's enemies who are forced to live together because they end up becoming co-parents after a sudden loss. So they're forced to share house and home, and obviously there's going to be a lot of tension because they're going to be raising kids together. It seems like a really interesting situation. It's kind of reminding me of, I think it's Uptown Girls with Dakota Fanning, and I think it was Brittany Murphy, but I can't remember if it's Brittany Murphy or Kate Hudson. I get the two of them mixed up. I don't know why, because one of them is no longer with us, but for some reason, when some of their roles, or Brittany Snow, I get her mixed up with Brittany Snow. I don't know. They have some similar roles sometime, but either way, this does seem like that, and I did really enjoy that movie, and I think that a novelization of it could be very interesting, tension, but I'm expecting this to also have obviously a really emotional element with that loss and dealing with that, and having these kids who are also going through that grieving process. I feel like there's another movie that's kind of similar to this one as well, but I can't think of what it's called. I'm sure that you guys will be able to, so let me know if you know what I'm thinking of, but it's another movie where the parents end up dying and then someone else has to take over and take care of them, and there's other people who don't think that the person who's taking care of them is fit for the job, but she does a really good job. Can't remember what it is, but in that one, it's not two people who don't like each other who are forced to. It's just one person on their own. Anyways, that's not the point of this video. The point is I'm really excited for this book. Next is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This one's also coming out July 19th, and it definitely seems like an interesting twist because I kind of had to face my own sexism, because when I thought of bodyguard, I thought of a male bodyguard and a female, but it's actually a female bodyguard, which is super cool. So this bodyguard is hired to protect actor Jack Stapleton from his middle-aged quirky breeding stalker. Very interesting, but it actually ends up being a fake dating story. Love fake dating, so I'm really intrigued by this one. Kind of on a very different note, because all of the books I've talked about so far have pretty much, I mean, except for the first one, they've been kind of more romances or lighthearted reads. But next we have The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. I'm a huge fan of Tiffany D. Jackson, not only because she also has a wiener dog, so we have that in common, but she's an amazing writer. I'm not a huge fan of thrillers, but the way that she writes them, they're just so like compulsively readable, and I cannot put them down, and I like fall in love with them. So I've been blown away by all of her books so far, so definitely her having a new one, I want to get my hands on it. So The Weight of Blood kind of makes me think a little bit of Kyri. It's actually about the first integrated prom at a Georgia high school, and it's following a biracial teen going to this prom. So it's tackling America's history of racism and that legacy that comes with that, and it seems like it's going to be a very like loaded story, but if there's anyone who can do this topic justice, it's definitely Tiffany D. Jackson. So I'm really intrigued to see what she's going to do with this one, because she just honestly, I never know what to expect from her books. I think it's gonna do one thing and then it doesn't, and it's like absolutely wild, but in the best way. And I can't remember if I said it or not, but that one's coming out on September 6th as well. Next is Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. So I know I said I'm kind of veering away from those YA fantasies, but this one, the cover has just completely sucked me in, to be honest. So this is coming out on July 26th, and you follow a morally gray witch and a cursed prince and a prophecy that ignites fate-twisted destinies. So I'm gonna be honest, like the cover is honestly what's drawing me to this one, and I have heard some really good things in the earlier reviews, so I'm hoping that it will live up to that, because the synopsis, I feel like the issue that I've been having with YA fantasies is a lot of the synopsises seem super similar and the same, and I just don't know like what difference to expect. But I am definitely into like a morally gray witch character and a cursed prince and a prophecy. That does sound really intriguing. Next is Master of Iron by Trisha Levenseller. So this is the second book of the Blade of Secrets duology, so it will be the conclusion to that, and it's also coming out on July 26th. As much as this one once again is a YA fantasy, I really love Trisha Levenseller. She writes books that I read so quickly, like no matter what it is, I fly through them, and I was such a huge fan of Blade of Secrets. It deals with a sister relationship at the forefront, and it has a character who is socially anxious, and she is a bladesmith, or no, blacksmith, that's what I was trying to say, but she, like, her passion with that, it was super cool to read about, and I think Trisha Levenseller did a great job with that sister relationship and also the romantic relationship, and they're on the run, so like I can only imagine what's going to happen in this next book. Next is My Imaginary Mary, and this is by the Lady Janie, so it's Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. These are the authors of the Lady Jane series, which was following different Janes, and now they've moved on to Marys, and My Imaginary Mary is the second book in their Mary series. So the first one was Mary Queen of Scots, and it was so good. I really loved it. It was set in the same world as My Lady Jane. So essentially they're taking like historical figures, or they're taking fictional figures, and they're just completely like twisting it and do the satirical historical story, which is really fun. So in this case, we're following Mary Shelley, and I think that is going to be so fun. Like I'm really excited. So Mary Shelley, if you don't know, is the author of Frankenstein, and she also has a very famous mother who was like a major feminist, and it's just, I think this is going to be really awesome. I am always blown away by their books. There's only like one that I didn't really fall in love with, but I think it's because it was kind of a time period that I'm not all that interested in. So this one, following Mary Shelley, I think I will actually really like, and I can't remember if I said it, but this one's coming out on August 2nd. Next is Kyri Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this is obviously the highly anticipated new book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I consider myself more of a casual Taylor Jenkins Reid fan. I know people are like absolutely obsessed, but I've only read 3 of her books. I've read like her most recent one. So I read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I liked, but it felt like my expectations were a little bit too high for that one. I preferred Daisy Jones and the Six, and Malibu Rising I just recently read because it's actually connected to Kyri Soto, and I did like that one, but I would say that's like my 3rd favorite. It's my least favorite out of the 3, but there's no denying she is a really incredible author. So I will be picking up Kyri Soto. So this one I think is going to be really interesting because it follows a character that she had like a really small part in Malibu Rising, but I found her to be a really intriguing character because her personality type's really different than what you typically see from like a traditional heroine or protagonist. So I'm interested to see her side of things because she doesn't seem like the most likable protagonist. So we'll see, but she's a tennis star and she has like fallen out of favor and stuff. So she's a legendary athlete, but the world has kind of written her off and sees her as past her prime, and she's trying to make this comeback. So it seems like it's going to be really interesting. And once again, I can't remember, but this is coming out on August 30th, if I didn't say it. Next is The Decoy Girlfriend by Lily Vale. This book is coming out on September 6th, and it is a funny and smart rom-com about a young woman who takes the place of her celebrity doppelganger. So it's fake dating again, which I'm a huge fan of. So she ends up fake dating this actress's sexy co-star boyfriend. So we'll see how this goes. I haven't read anything like doppelganger like that. It seems like a really interesting twist on the fake dating story, and I just tend to really love fake dating, so I'm definitely into that. Next is Lucy Checks In by D. Ernst, and this is coming out on August 16th. So I mentioned in my July TBR, I've been really gravitating towards books that feature heroines who are kind of reinventing themselves, changing their lives, like whatever. They're just trying something new. It's just been super appealing to me, and that is definitely what is happening in Lucy Checks In. So this is a rom-com about a disgraced hotel manager who travels to Rennes, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's a place in France, and I believe it's on the I can't think of what the coast is called in English because I don't want to try and say it in French, but the French Riviera, that's what I'm trying to say. So it's on the French Riviera, and she travels there to rebuild a hotel and her own life. That just seems amazing, like the setting, the rebuilding your own life, you know, that's definitely what I've been into. And the final book that I have here definitely doesn't seem like something I would usually gravitate toward, but I think that the concept seems like a lot of fun. So it is Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson, and this one's coming out on August 16th, and it follows a main character who reads pretty much nothing but true crime. This is not something I can relate to. I know a lot of people really love true crime, like shows, podcasts, all of that stuff. I am too much of a chicken for that, but I love the concept of someone who really loves true crime and then finds out that that's not exactly conducive for her dating life because she thinks that everyone is like a serial killer. But she's also learning to give love a chance even when she's expecting the worst. I think that sounds like such a fun concept. I'm honestly super pumped for this one. Like, it seems very different and I just love it because it really is like a time where I feel like it's hard to not expect the worst. So I'm super excited for this character who is going to try and find love despite all of that. Okay, so those are all the books that I wanted to talk about today as the ones that I'm really super excited for that are coming out this summer. Like I said, it is kind of a shorter list than I feel like I usually have for these videos, but maybe some will like pop up in the interim that I wasn't expecting that I'll end up being really excited for. But please let me know what books you are the most excited for that are coming out this summer. So between July and September, I would love to know, and I will see you guys in another video soon. Bye!